welcome to Sexually Charged Radio on 93.3 CFRU. I am Ruthie, and I am here with two co-hosts today. Their names are...
Kat.
And...
Sheila.
And we have some really good topics. We wanted to start out... Which one are we starting out with? Are we starting out with incest porn? We are. Nice. So you should know if you're listening that we're going to be talking about incest porn. And I think largely we're going to be talking about the kind where we can be reasonably assured that people are acting, correct? So, you know, it may be that in a different episode we talk about issues around, like, non-consensual, non-theatrical porn, but this is the kind that people are, like, hired and paid to make, that are presenting a certain kind of fantasy. So we'll talk about how we think and feel about that, and just kind of a heads up to you as listeners. But maybe we should do an icebreaker on an unrelated topic. And now I have to think of one. So here's a question that someone asked me recently that I thought was really interesting, which is, where's a place that you have always wanted to go, or you think would be really, really cool to go? You think you probably never will, and you're okay with that.
Ooh.
Right? Somebody asked me, and I was like, oh, I've never thought about this before. So that was, I have my answer already in my head, but you can think for a second.
Well, I can start if you don't mind. I've always had the dream of going to the moon, and it looks like that can be a possibility, but for people who have, like, an incredible amount of wealth, and that'll probably stay that way for my entire lifetime. So I really want to go to the moon. I probably won't go. I'd be down for the trip. Mm-hmm. I'd be scared, obviously, but I'd still go. But it's probably not going to happen. Am I okay with it? Probably not.
Oh, you're not?
I'm not okay with it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wonder how affordable that will be by the time you're, like, retirement age.
Apparently, by the time I'm 40, and so I'm 27 now, it's going to be $20,000 to go there. And I don't think I'm going to have $20,000 to spare at that
but
time.
what about by the time you're 60 or 70? Unless they have restrictions on age, right? Like, everything becomes more affordable, eh?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. So it might go down. I might get
it could. I believe in you. I believe in the possibilities.
Thank you.
Do you have one?
Yes. So I would really like to go to, like, a rainforest, just because I really like animals and nature. But I am a huge hypochondriac, so I would be scared of, like, getting, like, weird diseases or fungal diseases, or, like, I've heard so many things. I'm actually going to Indonesia in May, and even though I've been there before, I'm still so scared to go because there's Dangabug, and I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be Dangabug times 10 in the rainforest.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I still don't even know what it is. I just know.
But it's scary.
It's scary. It's like, it's a really bad form of the flu that could potentially kill you.
It sounds like a very unpleasant way to go.
Yeah. But yeah, like, I would love to just be in like a nice rainforest, but I also sweat a lot. Yeah. So I feel like I'd be really uncomfortable.
Oh my goodness.
But I'd love to look at all the animals, but I'm also scared of, like, snakes and
Can you stay in, like, a Pope mobile the whole time? Do you know what do people talk about?
I've never heard of that term before.
Okay, so the Pope years ago, like decades ago.
Oh, Pope mobile. Yes.
It's all enclosed and bulletproof, but it's all glass, so everybody can see you.
But would you be truly getting the rainforest experience?
No, but it doesn't sound like you want the true rainforest. It sounds like you want the partial rainforest.
So there's my conflict. That's what I thought.
So my answer, and I still hold it, is you see these beautiful, like, underwater nature video things where they're, like, at the reef and they're touching things, and I'm not even talking about where the fish have bioluminescence. Like, I don't actually want to go there. I'm cool to watch it on TV. But I really think these reef shots, or these kind of, like, running around in the sand shots, look really beautiful at the bottom of the ocean, and I just am not ever going to learn how to do scuba. I'm totally terrified. I'm like, this does not sound like a fun leisure activity. The learning it doesn't sound like a fun leisure activity. Once you're good at it, it sounds great, but I'm not interested in learning to be good at it. And I also don't want to take classes when I'm on vacation, which you would have to do or to prepare for vacation.
And extra money too, right?
Yeah, right? So I really like snorkeling, and, like, that's cool. I'm down. Yeah. That's it. That's all I want.
There you go.
So the bottom of the ocean in the middle depths looks like a place I would really love to go, and I will never go there because I'm too... I almost swore, and I think we're slightly before midnight on this show now, because I'm too chicken to go, and that's okay. I'm at peace.
What about in a submarine? Kind of like the Pope mobile.
I would do that. Okay. I would do that. Or they have this thing called Snuba, which is like a thing that just goes over the top of you and you're like in a little air bubble like in a children's cartoon. And I would also do that, even though that also seems, but if they can let
that
tourists...
freaks me out even more.
Yeah, because I guess it could go even more. I mean, it feels like if they can have people on cruise ships do it with no classes, it must be okay for really stupid people. And I would be stupid at that, so that's like right at my level. I don't know. All right.
Great answer.
There you go. I need stupid activities. So that is not in any way a segue to our topic of what about incest porn. So
0 to 100.
I know,
real quick.
this escalated really fast. So we were having a little discussion when we were planning out our topics about different kinds of porn, and like sometimes people get together to watch porn socially and discuss it, and sometimes people get together to watch porn sexually and have sexual times. But we were talking about the more social times, which Sheila, I have to check to make sure it's your real name there, which Sheila has does socially, right?
Yeah.
It's okay that I just said that.
Yeah,
because
that's
I just did.
okay. We
I
tell all
also
our
did it
friends.
as an undergrad too. What do we call it? Like Cheesecake Club or something like that. And we would just sit around and watch porn and then like laugh or talk about it, or sometimes have deep moments or whatever the case may be. And that was really fun. And I think it was like a good learning experience in a lot of ways too, because I became more aware of other people's reactions to what we were watching and how they differed from my own. So I got to like kind of broaden my ideas on stuff.
Where did the cheesecake aspect come in?
We ate cheesecake. Yeah, it was Popcorn Club, and then we upgraded to Cheesecake Club.
So good.
Yeah. So, good question. Well, we actually got the tubs of pre-made cheesecake filling and spoons, which, by the way, they're not tasty. It's like really kind of nauseous. And then a can of pie filling, and you would just put it together with it. Anyway, Cheesecake Club. Yeah.
Sounds like a good time to me.
It was a great time. Yeah, and you wear your jammies. So, in one of your social porn watching activities in your groups, like you were streaming porn, and fake incest porn came up, and it was like step siblings or something.
Yeah.
Like that. So I don't know if we have a specific question. I just wrote down, what about incest porn? And so my first thought is just guttural reaction from folks about the topic. And then we, maybe without the need to explain ourselves, but just like gut, how does it feel? And just a couple of sentences or less, and then we'll kind of go into more detail.
Mm-hmm. When I think about it, my first thought is why, but also I don't want to kink shame, and I don't want to like people like.
But
like
people will have a guttural reaction to this, right?
And when I think about it deeper, when I put on my future sex researcher hat on, as I motion putting on a Sherlock hat on, I think what entices people about it is like the forbidden aspect of it. Mm-hmm. And then I think, oh, these people might have a high risk takingness and like this, that, yeah. So I feel that's what attracts people to it. Me personally, I feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. I mean, the word incest itself is it's a weighted word. It's meant to be uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Like, we're supposed to like, culturally speaking, we're supposed to have negative feelings about that. Mm-hmm. And I definitely have, just because of that, the first word, like if we just said porn, I would just be like, porn, whatever, it's all kinds of things. Yeah. But if we add the word incest in front, now it has all these other implications. And also for me, as a therapist, thinking of people who have used that term not about porn, but about earlier childhood abuse or something like that. So I think for me professionally, there's a lot of real to the word incest, but I also recognize that incest porn, like the people are generally speaking not related to each other. I mean, I'm aware that there's some adult siblings, like twins, who do that as kind of like their thing. So that's technically is incest in incest porn and not just acting. But those are consenting adults of an older age, so that feels a little different to me, that they can consent to that or not. So I have a lot of gut feelings about it, but I also just recognize it as theater at the same time. And I wrote down some different types of incest porn underneath, and I don't necessarily have negative feelings about those subtypes, but the word incest isn't in any of those titles of those subtypes. Mm-hmm. So that's where I am. How about you?
Well, for me, I think where I go to when you ask what's my gut reaction to incest porn is actually just, I go back to my experiences of just browsing through different porn websites and seeing that pop up and instantly like scrolling away from it, or just like not even wanting to like bring my gaze to that, because I think there is this like real and imagined incest taboo that you wonder, like, what does it mean about me if I'm watching something like that? Or at least I do.
Yeah,
and
what kind of person am I if I suddenly, like, something awakens, you know, and I'm interested in this,
And certainly, like, I really like what Sheila said about not shaming and, like, norming that as well, because I think it is a norm. And I read a recent article written by Dan Savage on incest porn and how just prevalent it is, and how it's, like, one of the most commonly searched things on porn websites. And so I do think that it comes from this like real sort of like Freudian like reality about like human sexuality. I think, you know, like if you look at Freud's theories, we're all sort of like incestual, we all have like incestual desires for our parents, and that's kind of where our like sexuality develops from originally.
I would stop short of we all, but Freud would say we all.
Freud would say we all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking at my bookshelf, and I don't see the title up there. Oh, maybe it's Women's Sexualities, I'm not sure. But there's limited research out there on what are people's first sexual interactions, not necessarily with a partner. And oftentimes people who have siblings do some sort of sexual, although at that age, not potentially erotic, exploration. That's people's initial experiences. It's another person who's handy, and they're in your household, and they may be going through development stuff at the same time as you, or similar time. It's not unusual. So, you know, I think there's also a gap between the reality of what people are interested in or what people have done and what is okay to talk about or to want. Like there's a gap there, and I think I feel weird saying the word gap around the word porn, but there's porn is it's all the puns filling that need. I don't know, of between what people think about and potentially have experienced and our cultural norms and acceptability type stuff by adding fantasy element in there. And it's interesting, and it's, even the fact that we did a trigger warning at the beginning of this talks about what that means culturally for folks. So what exactly is included in incest porn? It probably wouldn't hurt to give a few topics, because when you said does step siblings count, and I was like, well, yeah, it's family, So I think it includes the whole giant area of like daddy son, daddy daughter type porn. So there's some sort of age gap with an older guy and a presumably less experienced, although sometimes very flirtatious, younger person of either binary gender. And there's often a lot of like non-consent or consensual non-consent. So there's a lot of the no, yes that happens on behalf of the younger person. Although again, sometimes it's flipped, and the younger person is the super seductive one, and the older person is like, oh, I don't know about this.
I've seen those too.
Yeah, I don't see that as often, at least popping up on my porn streams, but so I can't speak to whether there's more or less of it, but there's more or less of it that meets my eyes anyway, or there's less of it that meets my eyes. What else would be included that you see as like main types besides siblings, step-siblings, parent-child?
I think also like intergenerational, like grandfather or grandmother, that kind of thing.
Bigger age gap.
Age gap, yeah.
I want to be like, is there aunts and uncle one too? But I'm
there's
actually
probably cousins and aunts and uncles type
something
stuff
like
too. Yeah.
You mentioned siblings, right?
Yeah.
Siblings and steps. I guess I can't think of any other family relationships at all. They're step parent, stepchild.
Oh yeah.
Which has a different kind of air to it, I think, than parent child. And again, all of this being in fantasy and role play stuff. The more I talk about this, the more I wonder if we also just lack a lot of acceptable ways to talk about or to watch like age difference stuff without putting this in this like MILF or parent-child sort of things. Like, is it okay to like somebody who is more than 5 years different than you in age in the world of porn without giving it some sort of fantasy context like this?
Interesting.
Not to say that we shouldn't, because some people really like that fantasy context as well.
Yeah, for sure. So sometimes porn can be about like novelty, right? Like you see something new and exciting, and you've never really like masturbated to that before or consumed that before, and that really excites you and it's something new. And that age difference could be one of those. And then once you get past the age difference, then you have to add like another sort of erotic or novel element to it. But my question to you is like, have you ever seen incest porn that's incest porn, but the incest is not actually like the novelty or the like kind of different aspect to the porn? Or is that just sort of the thing that's supposed to turn you on?
I've seen incest porn with a lot of different dynamics. So, God, it feels so weird even just saying the phrase, I've seen incest porn, right? Like, that feels like I just confess something and the police are going to come in and get me or something like that. Which is probably why I keep feeling the need to add the word, like, fantasy and roleplay into it over and over again, and, like, actors and stuff. So I've seen this kind of porn where there's also, like, a huge experience difference, like, first time for the younger person. So there's the age difference, there's the experience difference, and then there's the, like, consent elements where generally by the end, both people are on board, right? But in the beginning, somebody's being very coercive, if not downright, by even more definitions, rapey. So there's that element together, and all those things could separately be their own type of porn and get put in together in this. Like, there's consensual non-consent porn, there's experience difference porn, there's age difference porn, but they put all that together under this kind of incest porn. Have you seen other stuff in addition with it too?
I have seen one where I could be wrong. It's an elderly gentleman, and I don't know if it's his granddaughter who's coercing him, or it's just a random lady, so I don't know if that would fall under our topic, but he's saying, no, I'm a virgin, no, and she's...
The grandpa is?
Yeah, and she's going for it, and then it's kind of now like a YouTube meme, and there's a remix of him going, no, I'm a virgin, and it's like in a song.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's taking on its own, like, cultural life. Huh. I have so many thoughts about that I need to think about more. Where I'm like, also, that just seems like it would be... I mean, there are ways to become a grandparent and still be a virgin, but that doesn't seem to be the most statistically common route.
So that's why I don't think it was a granddaughter, but from what I remember, she looked very, like... She wasn't a seductive one, yeah. Very seductive, but she was also older and dressed like schoolgirl type thing.
Okay. Whoa. All right. So we can add like school uniform type stuff into it. We can add concepts of like a younger, more socially desirable person who finds the older person. Oh, I'm the older person, so I said you. Who finds the older person to be like very desirable. I'm hearing the theme of like the older person not being responsible for the sexual encounter, so not having to feel guilty about it or anything like that, because they're the kind of like the victim in this scenario.
So yeah, that just totally flipped upside down.
That just came to mind because we were talking about the no yes pattern, because then then they're doing it, you know.
It's interesting that there's a meme about that, and it seems like there's it's almost like created to be comical in a sense, which is like very problematic.
Yeah. The therapist in me is very distressed by this.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was really relating to what you were saying about just like having, heard things about like real life lived experience of incest, and that being like extremely, extremely traumatic. So that's sort of
in both directions. Like sometimes they're traumatized because they had positive feelings about it, and that is terrible. And sometimes they're traumatized because they were definitely victims in situations, and that is terrible. And sometimes both. Mm-hmm. But yeah, anyway.
Right, because in some situations people do experience like pleasure and desire with incestual relations, and that can be sort of really distressing for folks.
Yeah, and it also depends on if there's a power thing happening then too, right?
Yeah. Oh man, this is a heavier topic than I thought it might be.
So is it okay to have these portrayals out there? Like, is this a type of porn we shouldn't make, or are we bad people for watching it? Are we bad people for making it, or are we bad people for watching it? What do you think? Because we have strong ethics about not yucking other people's yums as long as everything is consensual in what we're watching, right? And even if they're acting like it's not consensual, like at the beginning they signed a contract, at the end they got paid, and like if it's ethically made porn in an ethical workplace, then they're on board for all of this. Yeah, like this is just going to work for them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a toughie.
So is it okay to make? Is it okay to watch? And does it damage you by watching it? Three big questions. While you're thinking about this, I will remind people that you're listening to 93.3 FM CFRU if you're in the Guelph area, or perhaps you're streaming us online, or even through YouTube by searching Sexually Charged Radio. And if you have a question, you can email it in to the phenomenal interns at Student Wellness here at the University of Guelph, Sheila being one of them. And they'll field your question and forward some of them over to us or your topics. You can email SC, that's the initials for Sexually Charged, at uoguelph, don't worry, I'll spell it, .ca, UOGUELPH, and perhaps we'll talk about your topic on air. All right, so this broke down into three questions. Are we bad for making it as a culture? Are we bad for watching it as individuals or porn parties? And does it harm us, do we think? And there is research about whether porn harms you to watch, but it contradicts itself. We don't have a solid answer. And a lot of it kind of depends on the biases of the funders or the researchers. So some say it's harmful, some say it's not, some say it's potentially beneficial. Some say it depends on the person watching and whether they are watching it with a critical eye and thinking of it as fantasy, or watching it to give themselves permission to potentially engage in something that's negative.
I guess I like your idea of not yucking someone's yum, particularly when it's, you're getting your jollies off to something that's ethically made and isn't, like, you're taking pleasure in it, is not really hurting anyone else. The question of whether watching it actually leads to negative consequences and, like, really for other people and not just for yourself, like being distressed by watching what you choose to watch, I think that is debatable, and I've sort of, like, heard and read about different sides of that debate. But there's recent evidence, or there's a recent research project that found that men who watch misogynistic porn, or just like porn in general, have more egalitarian attitudes than men who don't watch porn. My question is, are there men that don't watch porn? So I would like to, like, read more about that study for sure. But I thought that was interesting because you would maybe expect a different result.
Well, and prior research has linked watching porn with being more likely to have traditional gender norms or to be more okay with rape and non-consent. So I like the study you're talking about. That makes me feel better about myself. And I feel good about that study. But there's a lot of conflicting stuff with it.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder how much of it has to do with who your research subjects are, right? Or how you're asking the question. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
This is a hard question because I feel like if I were to truly get into it, we'd be stuck here for a while. But
I just need to know if we're all going to hell or not.
Aren't we all already there?
It's going to be a party.
My main issue with this, like, is the consent part, is the portrayal of, oh, you'll eventually enjoy it when you say no. And I know it's for entertainment purposes, but I'm just thinking of friends and people who have been through things like this, to view something like that, and what Kat mentioned about, like, seeing it being trivialized, seeing it being funny to other people, can really be damaging and could even set you back, like, years worth of therapy that you've went through, type of thing. So that's, but also, like, again, it's fake. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But it's just so conflicting. It's so conflicting, I find. Like, because I don't want to, again, like, I don't want to put people down for enjoying what they enjoy.
Right.
But it does raise other, like, I think it raises more social issues, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I wonder if a lot of this is a reflection of the different taboos we have. Like, you have to have some sort of context for somebody to really enjoy sex. Or, younger people or more feminine people have to say no before they're allowed to like something. Or, you have to have a certain context in order to like somebody who has more than a 5-year age gap from you or something like that. And so I wonder kind of what that reflects about other issues for us societally, which is not to say that, you know, 'cause sometimes taboo is exciting too. I mean, I don't think we'll ever get rid of all the sexual taboos because people like them too much. Yeah, I mean, so I think it does reveal some troubling stuff about us culturally as a larger set of societies, but I don't think it's necessarily. I don't know that it makes them worse, but maybe the person who's consuming the porn is viewing it should really have an honest thought about how good they are at separating fantasy from reality, because I think some people are better at it than others. And just like know yourself, right?
Yeah,
like I can't go to horror movies. Like I like jump scare movies, but I can't go to gore horror movies.
Yeah.
I've even read about how they produce it. So when I watched it, I'm like, oh, this is the fake blood and how they do the thing, you know? And I can't, because it like gets to me at a deeper level. And some people can really tell those things apart and they enjoy the fear and they enjoy the experience, but I can't, so I don't go to those movies.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a shaming thing to say when you're watching porn, like, are you automatically thinking of it as a role play or as whatever? Like, suspend your disbelief for, you know, your jollies time. But, like, are you good at then later saying, this is not how I would ever treat other people unless we, too, were having a role play, right? Or are you the kind of person who gets really excited and wants that in real life? In which case, like, maybe that's not the kind of porn for you. And to just know yourself that way. And it's no more shame. Like, I'm not ashamed of the fact that I don't go to super gory movies and I can't handle it because I internalize it too much. Like, I don't go to war movies either. I can't handle it because I internalize it too much. Like, I'm not ashamed of that. So, you know, perhaps we can not be ashamed of saying, like, certain kinds of porn actually just becomes too real for me. And so I'm going to stick to other types of porn, even though that's quite exciting. Because I do get excited when I go to gory movies. I'm like, oh, I'm really into it. This is amazing. But then later I have a lot of regrets. So, you know. Yeah. So maybe for me it's about being responsible for yourself and what you can handle healthfully. And also, like, maybe talking with your relationship partners about how they feel that. Because they could also be really... I don't want to use the word triggered lightly, but they could really be triggered by thinking that you would not ever do that, or thinking that you, of course, would do that, and then finding out the opposite. Well, I think we're at the end of our time. I managed to talk us right to the end. Sorry about that. But thank you all for listening to Sexually Charged Radio on CFRU 93.3 if you're in the Guelph area. And we look forward to having you for a future episode.